I want to thank Dina for promoting the idea of the seminar and working hard on making it a reality. I also want to thank Jan for his very kind introductory words. And I want to thank Chris Thompson, who is here today in the audience. He works at Seismic, and he's a big promoter of using game design and mobile app development as instructional tools. And that's basically the idea that I want to sell to you today, the idea of using app development as an instructional tool. I have been a student of digital culture for quite some time now. I have a book, as Jan mentioned, on blog fictions. I am working right now on a collective volume of hypertext literature in the Hispanic context. I am also getting more and more involved in research on video games, again from the Latin American perspective. But all my approach to all these topics has always been from the perspective of an observer, of a theorist, of a critic, and not from the perspective of a practitioner, of a designer. I never got my hands dirty producing anything. But then last spring, I had the opportunity to participate in this workshop offered by Chris, and the purpose of the workshop was to introduce and train participants on how to use mobile game design, using specifically Game Salad. Game Salad is basically a platform, give me a second, basically a game design engine or platform that facilitates the process of creating and designing mobile games by users with very little to no knowledge whatsoever of computer programming. So users like me, and I dare to say like most of my colleagues in the humanities. It was really exciting, the spirit of designing games in Game Salad in this workshop, and that could be the subject of another talk, by the way. But this is not my focus today. It's not Game Salad. The reason why I'm telling you this story is because it was in this workshop with Chris, where I conceived the idea of using game design and app development in my classes, no? And that's the origin of this presentation. During an informal conversation I had with Chris, he also mentioned ARIS, which stands for Augmented Reality and Interactive Storytelling, as another platform that can be also used to design, in this case, place-based games. Place-based games. What are place-based games? Place-based games are basically games that you need to play at a given location. You need to go to a location to play. Since that location, let's say, offers the background of your game, it could be the setting where the game takes place. It could be a place where the player has to go on a quest. And by this, I don't mean like a virtual quest in a computer, but an actual physical quest in the real world, involving running around and jumping from a parachute, if that's supposed to be part of the game. I haven't seen that. Well, in theory, it's possible to do it. Or it could be also a place where the player is supposed to do some sort of scavenger hunt activity, collecting certain items and certain information that has been located there. And you need that information for the game to progress, for the game to continue. So I became extremely interested in this idea of place-based games and ARIS, and I started playing with this platform. And during my first 2 hours playing with ARIS, I realized two things. One, that it was extremely easy to use. It didn't require any knowledge of computer programming whatsoever. And the second one is that you could develop many different apps with this platform, not only games, place-based games, but you could also develop other informative apps, let's say like Yelp. I don't know how many of you use Yelp to know where is the closest Korean restaurant from where you are standing at any moment. That kind of informative apps can also be developed in ARIS within certain restrictions. I started toying with an idea for an app I wanted to develop here at Georgia Tech, and one of the principles for this kind of application is that you need to think locally. You need to think about something in the location where you want to develop an ARIS that is worth being gamified, being part of this app that you want to create. And finally, last semester, I invited the students in 3 courses I was teaching. One was a course on digital culture in Latin America and Spain, and the other one was 2 composition classes. I invited the student in the 2 composition classes to developed with me an app that we call Herencias. Herencias stands for heritage in Spanish. In some contexts, it could mean legacy. And the purpose of this app was basically to offer Spanish-speaking visitors to the campus, and we were thinking specifically of the parents of some of the Latino and Hispanic students that come here during orientation, to offer those visitors a self-guided tour of the Georgia Tech campus, as told, as presented by the students themselves, no? With a number of points of interest that were going to be the stops you are going to do during the tour that the student had identified as culturally relevant in our campus, in Georgia Tech. One of my purposes today is to share with you the process of developing this app, and also show you a little bit of the app. And we will get to there, but before we get to there, I want to discuss some of the basic concepts that are the foundation of ARIS and